Sy is te lig vir my. Jy het daar gesien hoe bring hulle afgetrede legends terug vir my. Hey, I just want to know how you would spin the table on you.
You God. Ek is 'n destroyer, man. I obliterate my opponents. I destroy them. I wipe them out. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Skeptical, let's move to you. Like when you hear the word battle rap psychology, what goes through your mind? What thought process do you actually go through before accepting a battle? And once a battle is actually accepted, what that thought patterns goes into your head though?
Bro, that was too much. It's like you asking me 3 stuff at once.
Okay, let's start with the first one. Before you get a battle,
yeah.
Before you get a battle, right?
100%.
What goes through your mind? How do you prepare for it?
Obviously, you don't know who you're battling, so you said before you get the battle. Is it like if the battle is announced and it didn't start yet, or just normal everyday life with regards to battle?
Okay, let me clarify it like this. When I say before you get the battle, because as a battle rapper, you do go through a routine of things, whether as you're writing generic bars every day just to sharpen your skill set.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about preparing yourself for when you should get an opponent?
Oh, no, if I write something class, I will know like, yeah, fuck, that's class. like that's class. And then I let it simmer for a couple of days. And then I come back to it. Then I make it more class. And then at the end of the day, I have like a whole verse already. Then that is before I even get a battle. And then when I get the battle, it's easier for me to adjust. Yeah, I think.
Okay. It sounds like what you do is you write stuff down, then you revise, you review, and then you obviously polish up on what you previously had. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of interesting. Okay. Once you have your opponent, what is the steps that you take for preparing for that opponent?
Now you look at your verse. Now you look at your opponent. And then you just fuse it together, like customize what you've written down. Kyk wat jy kan kry van jou opponent, all that stuff, like his mannerism, wat die ander mense gesê het van hom, and how you can say it better. What you don't like about him, like what you do in a battle, waarvan hy praat. Then you just adjust. Then you must just make it classer and classer. At the end of the day, people won't know what you're talking about because the way I rap circles on circles on circles. And that's how it actually becomes layers, because I write the feel, I think, for opponent.
When you say the word layers, what do you mean?
It's like entendres, man. Yeah. It's like,
okay.
There's levels to this, bruh.
Yeah.
Double entendres, triple entendres, and so forth.
Quadruple.
Yeah. Rogan, you mentioned levels. Do you perhaps want to go deep into that when you say there's levels to this? What do you mean by that?
No, I want to go deep.
Pause.
Jesus, bruh. I think it's just something that I've mentioned before. I think all of us, probably take the same approach of writing at multiple levels. So for me, it's important that if you're battling someone, of course you want to win in the building. But it's also important for you to win after the battle happens as well. So you sort of mitigate all negative reasoning against you. You know what I mean? So that's why you like Skeptic said, bro, you can write like double or triple entendres and stuff that people only chase afterwards. It's like you can listen to a Jay-Z album today that's like from the 90s, and you'll be like, oh, that's what he means. You know what I mean? So along those lines, bro, I think that's extremely important.
Right. And your approach, like before battle, during and after battle, what would that be? Let's start with before.
But before I get the battle, before I know I'm battling,
Yeah.
nothing. Nothing,
Okay.
bro. Cause I'm I don't spend, at least where I'm at now, I don't spend every day with battle rap in my mind. I might be listening to a beat and writing a verse, or busy formulating a song, and I think, oh, this is a good line. Um, it's probably not ideal for a song, so maybe I'll save it for later. Chances are I never get back to that lines that I save for later. Um, so when it comes to my process of a battle, when I actually know who I'm gonna battle, I say, okay, so now let we get into it then. So unfortunately for me, I suppose, I don't take a very generic approach. I take a very tailored approach to the battles. So everything is meant for that person, everything from beginning to end. The writing process as well, I don't necessarily like, at least how I used to write when I was battling. I wouldn't put like, okay, here's an idea, and then I'll put it together afterwards. What I would do is I would just start off with the first line. If the first line, if something I'm happy with, then I'll move on to the second line. Before I get to the second line, I rehearse the first line. And it goes down like that up until I get to like the sixth or eighth line. And then I'm still like, okay, I'm adding a new one now. So from the top to the bottom again. Then you just go over it like that. So while you're writing, you're understanding and allowing yourself to like stretch and be comfortable with the feel of the verse thus far. And you're also rehearsing as well. There might be certain ideas of, okay, this concept might work better, so I'll just put that idea there and I'll formulate it into something later. um but me and Skipty were talking about this before the actual group conversation happened. um you and I both have the same stance of not doing research. Like, I don't look at someone's social media, I don't ask people, what do you know about this, bruh? I don't dig up dirt. I just work with what I have, because my knowledge of the person should be good enough. And if I don't know anything about the person, then that is the approach. I know fuck all about you, bro. Why is this relevant all of a sudden? You know what I mean? So,
Mm.
yeah, that's my approach to battles. But everything is tailored, and I believe it should be tailored.
Raceway, wil jy miskien iets daarop add when it comes to psychology and battle rap?
Ja, ik vat basically ook dieselfde approach my bro, sien jy, like sy het haar eerste lyn nodig. Haar eerste lyn moet like kan in time in die second lyn en dan die third in die ja, die second moet kan in time in die eerste lyn, third in die second, sien jy. Daai is hoe ek ook basically skryf. Sien jy nou, so ek sit te dink eers hoe my begin, sien jy, hoe gaan ek begin? En as ek my begin het, en dan kom alles basically van self, sien jy nou. So jy mos nou weet hoe ek skryf, like alles daai in met mekaar. Wees van die tyd en sê julle ek scheme en whatever, but ja, dit is maar seker soos dit is.
Do you
Ek doen ook nog research op my opponent, die sien jy. Ek kyk eers na jou naam, wat is jou naam? Ek dink aan hoe ek jou naam kan afbreek, sien jy, wordplay en whatever. Ek gaan die meaning van jou naam gaan ek opsearch, sien jy. Miskien is daar meaning. Sy weet nooit die man, sien jy. As daar meaning is vir jou naam, dan gaan ek daai like explain, sien jy, terwyl ek rym, en dan breek ek dit af. Sien jy nou, daai is basically hoe ek dit doen. En as ek iets weet van jou, soos byvoorbeeld teen Zenith, dan gaan ek like daai angle gebruik. Soos byvoorbeeld teen Zenith, het ek die teacher angle gebruik. Verstaan jy? Because baie het al Zenith se naam opgebreek met die Dragon Ball Z en Zenith meaning the highest point en whatever. So ek okay, iemand het nou al wel die teacher angle gebruik, so ek gaan dit nou miskien different gebruik, sien jy. So ek kyk basically na jou naam, nommer 1, sien jy. hoe kan ek jou naam opbreek, sien jy, wat beteken jou naam en whatever. Wat sy doen om mense jou ken, en dan vat ek het van haar af, my bro, sien jy. Hy is basically wat ek doen.
Do you take the same structure of your first verse, or your same approach to your first verse, and like use that for the second and the third verse as well?
Nah. So basically one of my rounds will be tailored. One of my rounds will be generic. And my third round will always be a breakdown if it is 3 rounds. If it's 2 rounds, then my first round will be tailored, or my second round will be tailored, and the other rounds will be generic, with also flips of the person and wordplay around his name or whatever. That's how I write.
Fire, bro. One thing I like about your writing approach is that you can see like there's a very good, like, excuse the pun, like a logical flow to it. You know what I mean? You can see like you take your time in between, and you don't allow space for fillers to exist. You know what I mean? That's fire, bro.
Oh, yeah. So let me, bro, respect.
So yeah, me asking the questions. Let me give my type of insight to battle rap psychology. So
yes, fire. What is your approach? How do you approach?
First of all, a disclaimer though. Here's a picture that I want to paint. The coach can speak about the players on the field, but he doesn't necessarily have to be on the field. That being said, I do have a vast amount of knowledge, but based on the performances, it's not matching up at this moment in time. But that does not discredit my knowledge.
There we go.
Let me just get that out of the way.
Nah, Swag, why are you laughing at this man?
I don't know why Swag's laughing. Swag don't want to smoke. Swag don't want to smoke.
That was a nice setup, man. That was a nice setup, actually.
It was fire.
That was a nice setup.
That was for all the rebuttals, my bro. But now that I
There
got
was
that
no
out,
filler, my bro. There was absolutely no filler in the setup.
You know how we do, dog. As I was saying, so when I think about battle rap psychology, I break it down normally to something that's very important is mental toughness. Mental toughness is very important. You can crack before the battle, you can crack after and during the battle. If you have the ability to stand and actually accept what somebody is saying to you without the urge to actually physically react, then battle rap is for you. If you don't have that, unfortunately, battle rap is not for you. You must be willing to take what you dish out. Number one. So I'm going to break down what I have to say in 3 categories: pre-battles, during battles, post-battles. And when I asked you guys about pre-battles, you mentioned something about generic, the battle isn't there. But think of it in sports. If you're doing a run, if you're doing a running as athletics and the sports, you're doing sprints, you're jogging every day, preparing for when that race actually happens. And that also ties into you are doing research on your skill level, you're doing research on your pen game, you're doing research on how to get your cadence up, on your performance, and your level of engagement with the crowd. You need to understand the environment that you're in. You need to understand the platform. You need to understand the audience that you are tailoring your verse to, because you can't use a dialect or an approach for a crowd in one league and expect it to work on another league's crowd, if you understand what I'm saying. Even though the opponent might be the same, it might not work on both platforms.
Facts.
And if we actually go into pre-battle, I'm gonna give you guys cheat codes and the formula though. I'm gonna give you the cheat codes and the formula.
Talk your shit, bro.
Pre-battles, we're looking at bands. Bands is going back and forth with your opponent. You basically are creating interest for that event. we're talking about trolling. Now you see with trolling, there's levels to trolling. There's a fine line between being actually offensive where stuff happen in the real life and being offensive with regards and within the constructs of the morale of battle rap. I'm not sure if I went too deep with that one. I'm sure
Not
one of you
even,
guys
bro.
can. I'm sure one of you
Bro,
guys could break that down.
I think someone, at least to me in local, when I say local, I'm talking about South Africa now,
Hmm.
battle scene, who does the best trolling, is Pava Guns, bro.
Facts.
Fire.
Not
Fire.
not 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 as much, but I would say I'm not sure. I want to say Chaos Theory, Lin May, and what's this other dude's name?
Yeah, I smoked
Cerebro.
his boots, bro. Anyway,
Who's
as you
this?
were.
Who's this?
Lin May,
Who's
bro.
this? Yeah, yeah, but that was Lin May at that time. Lin May decimated what's her name, Blaine though.
Yo, don't matter, bro. You can bring him now.
I hear you. I hear you.
Don't
I hear
matter,
you.
bro.
I hear you, but let's get
Don't
back to
matter.
where I was with the three
Sorry.
battles. I mentioned bands, I
Sorry,
mentioned
sir.
trolls, I mentioned diss tracks versus where people are going through face off, but I'm guessing in a face off type of setting, that's where the bands, the troll and the disses come, where you're just throwing insults back and forth to one another. And unfortunately, this is a competitive sport that basically feeds off aggression. But aggression can be broken down into being actively aggressive and passively aggressive, because if somebody is in a face off and they change their posture to be actively aggressive, the person who maintains posture, who is actually passively aggressive, seems more masculine than the person who's actually shouting because he's more reserved. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I'm not
I
sure if.
think I think in terms of um like in the replay value, yes.
Hmm?
But I also think that in the actual like live and with the crowd there, right? When someone is rapping, of course they looking here. You know what I mean? They might do this and like just look at you so slightly, but they're looking at this nigga who's rapping his ass off right now. You know what I mean? It'll be like, let's do the truth. You know what I mean? So I think your point might also be more retrospective. You know what I mean? But I agree
Yo, 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 can you hear me?
a little bit.
Can you hear me?
What happened to your voice, bro?
Mike,
Can you
Mike
guys hear me now?
settings,
It's a
Mike
little bit
settings.
mic settings, bro.
Why, just give me a second. Give me a second. Yo, 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 yo.
There we go.
Better, 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 better.
Okay. Sorry for the hiccup, guys. You were mentioning something about live and replay value, which is something also you touched on previously. Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
does come into effect because in a live audience, people always is going to cheer on the person who's barking the loudest.
You see, I think there's I wouldn't, okay, I'm not speaking about like very recent battles because I haven't been too in touch with it, but a lot of cats in Cape Town specifically, also Josie cats, a lot of these dudes, um I don't think they fully grasp the full performance value on stage as to what needs to be done. You know what I mean? A lot of guys think that I'm battling my opponents, so I'm focused here, which is fine for certain moments. But other times you have to address the crowd as well. You know what I mean? And also use the space around you, because if there's, especially if the camera is capturing a large space, right? And you're just occupying one little space over there, it's not as entertaining. You get me? So live battles, there's a different kind of I think
Element of
chemistry you
stage
have to
presence.
have. Yeah, stage presence is very important. Like bruh, like I don't watch my battles back unfortunately, but for the ones I have watched back, like I look at it and I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed, but I'm like, why? Like, I need to
Just
eat
standing
more
still.
firstly. Oh wait, no, not just standing, not just standing. That's what- not just standing still, but like certain reactions I maybe have, or certain spaces I didn't command. You know what I mean? Or certain times I'm focused on the opponent and not on the crowd. Or times I'm focused too much on the crowd and not the opponent. You know what I mean? But those things are very important. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that golden nugget there. Um, you mentioned something about using the stage that goes into stage presence. That's like, I was actually gonna cover that like during the battle phase, out of the three
Oh,
that I broke
you
down.
still pre-battle.
Yeah, but
Nah,
we are
this man
still
is ready, my
pre-battle.
bro. This man is
We
ready,
are
my
still
bro.
we are still pre-battle, my G.
Oh yeah.
So there's just a few more topics that I have pre-battle, whereas we go into event promotions, using your social media, doing snippets of 15 to 30 seconds, where that also ties to the diss verses or the diss tracks, and practicing one thing that I am currently lacking there of based off procrastination, and then there's the writing process, and I think you guys touched on a few things. Raiswag touched on, if you don't know anything about your opponent, you just use its name, you use adjectives, you use nouns, you use verbs, anything that relates to his name. You can use synonyms, you can use antonyms, and if you're going for the humor approach and you find the antonym of the person's name, you automatically have an ironic twist to their name in your verse. If you're using a synonym, you can use comparisons when you do the verse. They that you can also use to make flips, and depending on what crowd you're going to or what crowd you have and how intricate or how clued up they are and what type of style they want, you can tailor make your verse for that specific opponent based on the crowd to win in the to win in the room and on cam. So that basically concludes my pre-battle. Then I have the during the battle, whereas one of the key things that people should focus on in battles is hydration. Know when to take water sips, know how much to take, not too much. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. Cause what could happen is you want to say something, but you still have a bit of water in your mouth, and then it comes off a bit sluggish, and then you forgot what you wanted to say, and then you have to run that back the whole time. Whereas if during your prep you are obviously having a bottle of water in your hand and you make that part of your preparation, it would be easier to actually get your verse off. And one thing to most battlers, if they know the event that they are battling at, go and check out the event. Go and check out the event. There's some stuff in the room that you could potentially use as a pre-rebuttal or pre-freestyle within your verse that you could associate with your opponent. For instance, if there's a mirror in the place, you can talk about the reflection, a mirror match. If there is disco lights, you can talk about how these true colors bounces off around. I mean, you can use lots of elements in your verse when you are battling him, as it would be seen as a freestyle because it would be a current event bar, but it would be actually something that you pre-wrote, and it could be very effective in a live battle because people will be like, "Oh shit, he just said that now." Then it goes to performance, lyricism, stage presence, and precision. By precision, we are talking about how your verse is structured. Does line one, line two, and line three actually link up? And does that first that first few bars link up with the last few bars? Is there a storyline that people can follow, which would make it very impactful, and it will give you a replay value. And now we're gonna go to. I'm not sure if you guys want to expand on during battles, type of psychology, especially when. Okay, let me touch on this. When you are not spitting, and your opponent is basically getting his verse off, don't try to remember your verse. Don't do it. It's a trap. It's a
Why?
trap. It's a trap. You're gonna throw yourself off, Machi. Think about if you are a freestyler, right? And the crowd reacts to something that was amazing that your opponent said. Rebuttal that. Just one. Rebuttal that. Because now you're taking something that was seen as very hard hitting and impactful about what your opponent said, and now you're basically controlling the narrative, making a joke of it, and making it seem like this small thing, and then you're presenting your verse after that.
I think during battles as well, in terms of like the preparation, like the stuff you're writing, I
Hmm.
do think it's important for people not to overextend themselves in terms of name flips. I do think because I've talked, there's so many battles out there where people are like just using name flips for the sake of using name flips. You get me? But it's you have to ask yourself what weight is the content carrying. So for me,
Mm.
the only time I would actually do a name flip is when I know, number one, nobody's ever said anything like this or along these lines before, right? Number two, it's creative as fuck. You know what I mean? And number three, I know it's going to be received well. Um, Something else a lot of cats do as well. They are so preoccupied with bars and bars being great. Yes, it's a very big part of the sport, but what they fail to do is create moments. So for me, like there's certain points. That's the thing, bro. You have to create moments because nobody's
Moments.
gonna. The only time somebody will sit back and remember your whole verse, right, or all your verses, is if they've watched it over and over and it's the favorite thing in the world. And then the only time that's going to happen is if there's checkpoints. You understand? Like there has to be, okay, there's many way to do checkpoints. You can do it with the rhyming pattern, right? You can do it stylistically as well. That just creates like a little thing for someone to remember, right? Or um just the entire way, like you just embody the whole verse. You get what I'm saying? So for me it's important to create moments, and that's what um your the idea of either changing the flow or doing a name flip at a certain point or creating something that's just so unique now. So, like you say, for example, if somebody's very aggressive and they said this, and now all of a sudden, like you take the humor approach and you're like, bro, how could you say that? You know what I mean? And
Oh,
people be like, what an interesting approach to take. So you're using that to create the moment. Then you hit with the rebuttal. So like a moment, that the first thing I think of now is I think it's Rio's battle with Mo, where Mo had dissed his chick for having braces, and then Rio, like he said, something about her beautiful smile has more bars than you, kind of thing. And also look at Rio's hand gestures. This man, this man is just always just flicking out bars to everyone, bro. Like Inspector Gadget. It's fire. So like he
Magneto
uses,
rhyme.
and here's the thing, that is such a great moment because he's saying, I was listening to what you were saying. People reacted to what you were saying. Not only am I using your bars, I will use my girlfriend as a prop as well. Bring her into the battle. So it becomes theater now. You get me? That's a very big moment. People lost this shit, bro. You know what I mean? That's fire. So things like that. I think it's very important for people to create moments and not stress the idea of just name flips all the time, because you can do a lot of name flips, bro. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot you can do. But what I would usually do is, even though I think of maybe 16, right? Just pick like the top three and then work like eliminations. Like, should these actually go in there? Does this name flip um end up like working out better than this other bar I have about this other thing or this other approach. You know what I mean? So I think you have to overwrite and then, you know what I mean, like fit everything in where it needs to be.
That was quite very informative, very insightful also. And I'm sure one of our hosts over here, especially Raceway, can tell us a bit more about moments.
See, the man is creating a moment right now, bro. You see what I'm saying? He's a natural dog.
Yeah, look, I agree with what Rogan says, man. You have to take note of what's going on around you as you're busy battling. It can be either when you're rapping or when your opponent is rapping. You always have to be aware of your surroundings. I always make an example of Floyd Mayweather. He per me knows what's going on around him if he's fighting and whatever. When the commentators say something, then he will reply. He will like throw a few jabs or punches, and he will turn his head to the camera and say something, responding on what they said. So you have to be like aware of your surroundings. Um, you have to take everything into account. Like I will make an example of the battle of me and Zenith. That is the most previous battle. So I'm going to make like a lot of examples about that. You saw how Zenith was pushing me in the battle. He was like bumping against me. He was pushing and whatever. So I had a rebuttal for him, but I already knew what I was going to do because I'd said, okay, this man is pushing me around the whole time. Okay, for the sake of the battle, I'm going to allow it, but he's going to get his inside. So I did my rebuttal. And then at the end of the battle, while I was battling, I got the idea. I'm going to do this. So I was done with my bars. I didn't have any more bars left. But I thought, yeah, I'm gonna create a moment here. So then I acted like I was going to shake his hand, like, hey, this is now the end of my round. And then I pushed him. I said the same thing that he said. No, I thought I was done. And then I pushed him, and that was like a push moment in that battle, bro. So yeah, that's the way I think, man. Like while I'm rapping, I can still think of other stuff. And sometimes it might let me stumble a bit because I'm trying to rap and I'm thinking about something else. So it might let me stumble or whatever. Or while the crowd is reacting, I can even like think of it because there's enough time. So yeah, my bro, that's about it that I can say about moments, my bro. You just have to like be aware of your surroundings. That's basically the main point that I want to make. Be aware of your surroundings. Since I take everything into account. And also agreeing with the
Okay, so that's also insightful. So basically, what if I should summarize what both of you were saying is be present in the moment and also be conscious of what is happening. Don't be reactive, but also you should be fast with your wit. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
Oh, yeah. Because most of us, like me myself, I go blank. I don't see anyone around me. Sometimes there's certain points in the battle where I come back to earth, since then I will see, okay, this one is in front of me, this one is reacting. Sometimes a person can stand in front of me, bro, but then I don't see that person because everything just go blank. But that can be a good thing because you into it, you focused. But it can also be a bad thing. You understand? It can also be a bad thing. But when you can like balance it, you can blank out, but you can also like come back to reality and be aware of your surroundings. Then you can like make use of that surroundings to create moments. Understand? And to be creative and think on the spot, think fast, and do something with it. Seems like.
Skeptic, you wanted to ask something. Skeptic, over to you.
I think that moment is gone.
Oh shit! Racewag stole that moment, guys. and Rogan was like, "Nah, he's natural." So it makes sense. It makes sense. Skeptic, what did you say?
When? No, nothing. No, man. You said you mustn't be reactive. No.
Yeah, I'm quite skeptical as to what you were saying, Skeptic. Just saying, Skeptic.
But I didn't say anything. So how can you be skeptical about what I was saying?
Nah,
are you hearing
I'm just
voices?
You.
It's too deep. It's too deep.
Nah, Skeptic, you were just in the firing lines, but I mean, no need to douse my flames. I'm just saying.
Sy is te lig vir my. Jy het daar gesien hoe bring hulle afgetrede legends terug vir my.
Because I destroy him. I obliterate my opponents. I destroy them. I wipe them out. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?